welcome to another episode. My name is Dean Vassy. You can find me on X at #Kangaroos, Instagram #Kangaroos Podcast. Tonight, we continue our mid-year review with Steve Briffa from In Clarko We Trust podcast, and Kanga TV's very own Marnie Cohen joins us as well. Thank you for joining us, both of you too. Marnie, how's Kanga TV going so far this year?
Going really well. It's definitely riding the highs and lows emotionally of supporting this football club, and doing so with everyone watching at home and some special guests that I have on the channel from time to time. But going really well. Crazy to think it's, we're already halfway through the year. It feels like it's flown by. I don't know about you guys, but a bit scary how quickly this year is going and how quickly another footy season is going. It was testing as being a North supporter is from time to time. Overall, everything is still good. All good things.
Well, yeah, me and Steve are a lot older. We've gone through a lot of highs and a lot of lows over our time as well. So it's all part of the journey, which is something we enjoy. Steve Briffa also just joined the podcast game this year. How's that going so far for you, mate?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks again. Thanks for having me on your podcast once again. I think it's my third time on your podcast. Our podcast is called In Clarko We Trust. We started our podcast in February this year, and we're doing extremely well. So we had Nick Larkin on our podcast about 6 weeks ago. He was great. And 2 days ago, we had Drew Petrie on our podcast, and he spent the whole hour with us, Drew, and he's in good spirits and pretty much a deep down North man still. And no, we're doing quite well. There's 4 of us in the podcast, the Gatman, the Colonel, and Oatsy, and we do it each week. So we have got our own set segments, and we're doing quite well.
Yeah, I've listened to a few of your episodes. So no, you boys are doing a really good job so far. So yeah, well done to all of you, both of you, and all your success so far. Especially you, Marnie. You're doing really well. So good on you for that. But no, that's not what we're here for. So we're not here to pat each other on the back just yet. I want to get your thoughts on the season so far. Now, 2 wins, a draw, 7 or 8 losses. I can't remember now. There's a lot. Is this what you expected going into the year, Marnie?
Probably would have expected a couple of more wins at this point of the season. I think given how close we have been in quite a few of those games as well. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys or anyone that's watching and listening, like we've been in quite a few games right up to our neck, right until the very, very end. So given how a lot of these games have played out, I would have expected us to probably have at least 1, if not 2 more wins on the board. It's obviously a better start to the year than we had last season. We didn't win a game until after the bye last year. So in that respect and looking at our percentage and things like that, definitely more improved, but we are sitting worse off than we were in the second half of last year. So it really just depends on how you want to judge it. In terms of individual players, there's been quite a few players that have really come on and have hit some incredible form. And then there's others who have been a little bit inconsistent or just having down years on what we probably expected. So I think there's a lot to like and there's a lot of promise. How that has translated into tangible improvement, it's probably not just there for me yet, but I am expecting a big second half of the year, and I still think there's plenty of time and plenty of opportunity to make up for what we might have lost in the first half of the year.
Yes, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, and talking to Josh the other day, your good mate Josh Neal, yeah, he's pretty similar. Coming from this time last year where we were 0-11 and had a percentage of 50, it's a big improvement from that. It's 2.5 wins, a percentage of 80 odd, I think it is. It's not, I don't think it's the second worst percentage or third worst percentage in the comp. I think there's a couple of teams around the mark. So it's a big improvement if you look at it like that. What about you, Steve? Are you similar with Marnie there, or were you expecting what it is now?
Yeah, look, I'm disappointed with our progress so far, to be honest. I expected more wins at this time of the year. Look, heavy losses to Sydney, Gold Coast and Carlton, plus our fade out in the last quarter against Collingwood was hard to watch. But look, we've got an opportunity after this mid-season bye to notch a few more wins. And look, we're virtually injury-free. We've got 2 or 3 maybe are out for the year, but pretty much our list is healthy. And look, I'll be happy with 2 or 3 more wins this year and a percentage in the 80s. And that'll show an improvement in terms of the past 5 years. I remember when Paul Roos first got to Melbourne, and the first thing he said is, we need to improve our percentage, and that's a true indicator of improvement. So the last half of the year, I'm looking at 2-3 more wins. That'll take us 5.5 wins or maybe 6 wins for the year. Percentage in the mid to late 80s, and we'll call that an improvement. So, look, we've still got Harry Sheasel, LDU, Caleb Daniel, even Colby McKercher, who could be more damaging, more effective, and could show more improvement for the year. Look, with Harry Sheasel and LDU, I realise their bar is quite high, but I feel this second part of the year, they could be more effective, which hopefully leads to 3 or 4 more wins. Dean?
Well, yeah, we'll certainly hope so. I think Barney said on Kanga TV that she expects us to win every game for the rest of the year. So, yeah, look, that might get us in the final, Steve. You never know. What's been the biggest positive for you this year so far, Marnie?
I think it's the competitiveness. And I think, look, bar the Carlton game, I mean, even with the Carlton game, we were in it for bits and pieces of that game. But if we I think that's probably an outlier in our season. We've been competitive for a big portion of every single game this year, with the exception of that one game. We've obviously come close to winning quite a few of them. We've won 2, we drew 1, all that sort of thing. So I think that's probably been the biggest positive for mine. I think the other 2 things I would say is the forward line and the way the forward line's been functioning. We're not relying so heavily on Nick Larkey. We've got a lot of different contributors in the forward line. I think we have a really even spread now. We've been able to stretch the opposition defence a lot better. And if it's not Larkey contributing, it's Zurhaar. If it's not Zurhaar, it's Curtis. If it's not Curtis, it's Darling. And then someone like Constanti's popping up, kicking goals. Powell's had, a few shots on goal. Bits and pieces like that. So the forward line's functioning has been excellent. And I think the other thing that's been really positive for me is our ability to respond when challenged on Good Friday. So I think in the first half of last season, we were belted pretty much every single week. I don't think we got within 7 goals of an opposition side in the first half of last season. Whereas this season, we obviously had that big loss to Carlton, and then the month that followed, with the exception of the last quarter, or say the last half against Collingwood, we were extremely competitive, and the way we were able to respond and back up our performances each week was really, really pleasing to see. So I think those things, there are some big, big positives from a team perspective for me that I think we can definitely take away with it. And I think that those are the sorts of things that will keep us in good stead, and hopefully we can build on those in the second half of the year.
Now, you mentioned the forward line, and I know they haven't been kicking the big scores, but that's a really good point. No one's really mentioned the forward line, how it's functioned this year. I think Paul Curtis was all Australian form, obviously till he got suspended, and he probably still is. Cameron Zurhaar's kicked 24 goals this year. We will talk about him later. 22, sorry. So he's kicking 2 again. So Nick Larkey. It was only a couple of years ago. We were saying if Nick Larkey isn't kicking 5 or 6 goals, we've got no chance of winning. So, it's a big improvement. Whereas this year, he's had games where he's kicked 1 or 2 and we've still been in the contest. So, that's a very good point there, Marnie. That's why I pay you the big bucks. What about you, Steve? Anything different?
Yeah, well summarised, Marnie. I do agree with your summary of our forward line, but I'll focus on a few individual players. And one of the positives so far this year, I believe, is Riley Hardiman. I mean, we've been to the draft last 2-3 years. We went quite heavy in the draft last year, and Riley Hardiman was one of those first round picks. And look, he's been a standout young player for us this year, I believe. Albeit he's played about 6 or 7 games so far. A few as a sub. He's an elite kick. He's a good runner, and he plays a defensive role quite well. He's not one of those midfielders who've turned defender. We've drafted him as a defender. He was a West Australian under-18 captain as well. I think he made the All-Australian team as well. Huge positive. He'll be in the side for the rest of the year. And hopefully there we can see a 250-game player in Riley Hardiman. I know Marnie's mentioned Paul Curtis. He's transformed himself, I believe, into an elite AFL player. It's a pity he got rubbed out for those 3 games because, look, he'll pick up where he left off, basically. He's strong. He takes a good grab. He's a good kick. He's a great pressure. I'd call him a mid-sized forward. So a big tick for Paul Curtis. Luke Parker, I believe, out of our recruits. I think he's been the pick of our recruits this year, Luke Parker. Outstanding leadership. And look, he's been down last week or two, but all in all, he's had a great season for us so far. And I could imagine he'll be high up in our best and first as well. Dylan Stevens is another. He's cemented himself as a permanent winger for us. Look, he's finally showing us why he's a top 5 pick in the draft when he was drafted by Sydney 4 or 5 years ago. So I think it's a plus as well. And there's a continued improvement, I believe, as say Charlie Comben and Tom Powell. They've improved their performances this year, especially Chom down back as well. And I'll mention someone in the VFL as well. I watch the VFL closely. And Taylor Goad in the ruck. The last game against Collingwood, he got about 18, 19 touches, ran. He's quite quick, clearances, took a few marks. So God forbid if Tristan Sherry breaks down, we've got Taylor Goad, who I feel is almost ready for senior footy. If not this year, definitely next year. Another positive from this season, I believe, Dean, is our membership. We've got record membership. I called the club late last week, and we've got over 52,000 members. And that's considering where we've been for the last 5 years. Can you imagine we're winning games of footy, playing finals? 60, 70,000 members perhaps. So I feel that's another positive off the field, Dean.
Yeah, I don't know how many Tassie members we'll probably lose. There's probably 5,000 or 6,000. I think we've got at the moment, so we might lose a few thousand of that. So, but still a very good effort and shows loyalty. So hopefully, they obviously see signs, the supporters, that we're going in the right directions, which is the most important thing. Well, we'll go to the tough one now, Marnie. Negatives so far this season. You mentioned Good Friday, probably the fallout of that. That's probably been one of the biggest negatives for me. But what about yourself?
I agree. Good Friday was atrocious, and I think Good Friday probably set us back mentally a lot more than we would be willing to maybe admit. I think the way we have responded after Good Friday has been good, but I do think that the loss itself and the damage that was caused during that loss probably set us back about 10 steps, to be honest. So I wonder now, and you can't dwell on these things, it's happened now, but we obviously came really close to beating Port and Essendon, and we drew with Brisbane, but you wonder, if we had a little bit more confidence going into those games, then would the scoreline be different? Would we have had that extra 5-10% to actually get over the line? I think I'd like to think so. You bring in the likes of a Parker or a Darling for their experience, and each of those guys did their best in those 3 close losses to try and bring us over the line and win those games. I mean, Jack Darling almost won the game against Brisbane off his own boot in that last quarter as an example. So these guys are doing so much. It's just they can only do so much at the same time. And they really struggle to bring the others with them. So look, I think that's probably the big one, that we haven't been able to capitalize on those big performances and translate them into wins. And you wonder how much of the Good Friday loss really impacted us. I guess the other one is probably defense. I think defensively, our structure across the board is really weak. We don't have a strong defensive blueprint. I think that the back line is constantly under siege. I think that was an issue we had last year. And I think a lot of people want to point fingers at personnel, and I don't think that really does anybody any favors. Of course, I think there are key people in the back line who are underperforming, obviously, but that back line, some of the best defenders in the competition wouldn't stand a chance with the ball coming in at the way and the pace that it does. We just don't get a lot of help and support from higher up the ground. And this is why fans are calling on the likes of Willfield to be included in the team, because we don't have enough two-way runners in the midfield. We rely so heavily on the likes of an LDU or a Jai Simpkin to replicate the performances they had defensively against Melbourne, and they just haven't been able to do that. Unfortunately, you've got the likes of Wardlaw and Parker who are doing all they can, but if they don't get the help from the other guys in the midfield defensively, then what chance do we have? We either win the ball out of the center of the middle of the ground, or we struggle to combat it when it comes the other way, especially when we turn the ball over in our attacking 50. So there are the same issues over and over again that we've had for years. But if I had to pinpoint it down to one thing, as a team on field, that's probably what I would say is the lack of defensive structure and the lack of strength down back, for sure.
Has it been better for the last month? I mean, we have conceded lower scores. Do you think it's on the improve at least with how teams that are scoring against us. I mean, we can see there's about 80 odd points a game in the last 5 weeks, I think.
It is on the improve, but again, I still think there's issues there. I mean, against Collingwood, George Wardlaw with 4 tackles was the highest tackle count for anyone in our midfield. I mean, that's just outrageous. That's crazy. We need to be able to combat a side when they're attacking the other way. I know our game plan is about maintaining possession and having ball in hand, sure, but we need to be good enough to defend the ball when it's coming the other way. So I still think that we can get caught out. We can't stop necessarily teams when they get on a bit of a run sometimes. It still concerns me.
No, that's fair. The second half, the Pies really opened us up. We just let Dacos do whatever he wanted to, and if you give a class player that much space, and he's gonna find players in the forward 50, and that's what kind of happened. But fair points there, Marty. Steve, what about yourself?
Yeah, I've also had the same thought as well as our backline, and even the ball going into our backline, lack of defensive pressure, say from the mids, and that's where we miss Will Phillips. And I feel he's been quite unlucky to be dropped, I think, twice or 3 times this year. You watch him play in the VFL, you see 8 to 10 tackles, you see all these pressure acts, and he's a two-way player as well. And when you look at our defensive structure as well, while Griffin Logue's been down for most of the year, even the reserves have kind of struggled a little as well. Aiden Corr's been hot and cold as well. And this is where, for our defensive structure going forward, this is where Will Dawson and Matt Whitlock are quite important. So let's hope they can speed up the development and become regulars next year, where they can play on the big bodies. Especially look at Will Dawson. He's quite solid, quite built. He's a big boy. I can see him competing against the bigger forwards as well. Negatives this year, as I said earlier, it's just our lack of improvements. Only 2.5 wins for the year. We could have been Brisbane, Essendon, Port Adelaide. But in contrast to that, for those 3 close losses we had this year, if it was last year before, they'd be 10-goal losses. So at least we're making some improvement in that aspect. Another negative this year is a drop-off in Bailey Scott. We're looking at a player here, twice finished top 3 in our best and fairest. And I'm not sure it's a lack of confidence. He's just gone backwards this year. And even in the VFL, he played okay last week, but I mean, none of us saw that coming, the demise of Bailey Scott. He was one of our leaders or one of our frontline midfielders. And I say this each week, and we chat about this in our podcast most weeks, is our slow-moving game plan, especially coming out of defence, where other teams seem to move the ball a lot quicker from back to forward, and we just kind of stagnate, hold on to the footy too long. So they're what I've seen our negatives this year, and pretty much how Marty nailed it herself, basically. It's our defensive structure and the ball leaving our midfield quite easily into our defensive setup where we've struggled this year, Dean. So that's as much as I can say so far, but let's hope this second half of the year we can improve on all aspects of our game, mainly our defence and our midfield setup as well.
Now, you both mentioned Will Phillips, and I talked about him with Josh Neal the other day. Marty, it doesn't look promising for him. Only the 4 games this year. It looks like if we've got a full midfield to pick from, he's on the outer. Do you think he's at the club next year?
I still think it's too early to tell. I think that Harry Cheeser was on radio today, and he made a really interesting comment about how a lot of the guys in the midfield or on the outskirts of the midfield, potentially like floating at halfback or half forward, have been playing like in 3 to 4 different roles across the first half of the season, sometimes multiple roles in game. And it's not really ideal, I think, to really build continuity and to be able to build a stronger game plan and to be able to build a stronger system. You need these guys to be able to lock in spots. And he did make that comment when he was on air, and he did say that moving into the second half of the year, we'd look to keep guys in the same spot where possible. So I think potentially that's where Will Phil could come in handy, is if we actually do go ahead and we are able to lock in one player in their spot, then potentially that's where Wilfield can come in and he can break into the side. I also think I think it was against Collingwood, he had 35 touches. So if he can actually add versatility to his game, that's going to help him too. Because I think at this point in time, Clarko does like players with versatility. That's no secret. And I think that's why he's been on the outer. That's what my gut tells me anyway.
Yeah.
So while we might look at his stat sheet week in, week out in the VFL and say, oh, wow, he's had 10 tackles or multiple pressure acts, that's all well and good. But Clarko's saying, well, what are you doing offensively? That we can also add into the side. So potentially, if he is starting to strengthen that offensive element as well as the defense, then that also could help him break into the side. So I think that's been a victim, like players who aren't versatile and who are one-dimensional and can't play in multiple positions have been the reason why they have been on the outer in the past. And so I think if he can find a way to rectify that and show his worth in multiple different layers, then potentially we will have a spot for him in the side. I still think there's room for him. I still would love a way to bring him in. I know he doesn't get a lot of the footy when he's on the attack, but he's such a good ball user. His kicking is one of the best we have on our list as well. Forget just the defense, which we desperately need. So I wouldn't begrudge him if he started to explore his options elsewhere. But from a North perspective, I would like us to still give him a bit more of a run before we make any final decisions on where we see him in the side next year or not.
Well, he's out of contract at the end of the year. Apparently, West Coast are very interested in him. Look, if he wants better opportunities and be a first choice player at another club, then he may have to look. Look, the second half of the year is going to define his future aspects. What about you, Steve? Are you similar with Marnie there, that he's probably on the outer because he can't play any other position besides midfield? They have tried him in other positions, but it hasn't really worked out for him. He just doesn't have that impact. Do you think that's what's keeping him out of the team right now?
Yeah, look, as you well know, Dan, I've mentioned on your podcast in the past, I'm a big Will Phillips fan. I flog his name each time on our podcast. We've invested pick 3 on Will Phillips. At the time we drafted him, it was all about his leadership as well. His leadership stood out. So he can tag. We saw that last year. I agree with Marnie. His kicking is effective. His handball is his vision and handball is quite effective. He needs to find another string to his bow. Like even resting as a small forward or mainly midfield. I'm not sure about a wing. I'm not sure defence or halfback. I can see him, our defensive midfielder, and hopefully resting up forward where he can be damaging with his kick, vision and handball and hopefully slot a few goals. But I'm like Marnie. I wouldn't begrudge him if he explored his options come next year. He's a great character by all accounts. He's a shin boner. He loves the club. And it's a shame so far he hasn't had a good run at it in the last year or two, especially this year. Look, he's quite stiff to be dropped a few weeks ago. I think after the game against Essendon, he was quite okay in that game. Yeah. And I feel all he needs is to run 3, 4, 5, 6 games. He needs a good run at it. And then we'll see the true value of Will Phillips and hopefully become more effective resting in the forward line, Dean.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, he almost needs an injury to get that run if he's going to get a run of 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks because he's on the fringes. He's been emergency a few times, but Oh, you were going to say something there, Steve?
Yeah. Look, as I've said, Luke Parker's been great for us. Great pickup. He's been great. But on the flip side, he's probably blocked a spot for Will Phillips in our midfields. But where do you go?
Yeah, he probably has. Yeah, he probably has. And, Luke Parker has added a lot of value to midfield, added a big body, a bit of experience, which was kind of needed in the last few years, judging by some of the work that we've seen when he hasn't been there. So, yeah, we'll see how we go with Will Phillips. We certainly hope he can find a spot and be on a list next year because I think we all want him to succeed because he is a high-character individual and he loves the club. So we'll have to wait. I'll talk to you about some new players. Now, I spoke to Josh about the big names like Daniel, Parker and Darling. So I'm going to give you a couple others. Marnie, Jacob Costanti came with Luke Parker, probably thrown in to the deal, the steak knives, averaging 0.7 goals per game. He's played every game this year, 2.8 scoring involvements per game, 2.8 tackles per game. Not a bad first season, 20 years old. There's still a little bit of upside there for growth. Have you liked what you're seeing from him so far?
Yeah, I have really enjoyed what I've seen from him. He's definitely been the surprise packet for me. I thought really he would just come in like as steak knives and make the Parker deal look better than it was. But I was proven wrong, gladly proven wrong at that. I think he's been awesome. I think defensively in our forward line, he's been great. He definitely supports the likes. I mean, Paul Curtis is such a great pressure forward as it is. There's not much Paul Curtis can't do, to be honest. But I think Constanti complements him really, really nicely. And I think Constanti's work rate is really good. He does chip in with a goal here or there most weeks. So I've really, really liked what he's been able to do. I would be interested to see if we give your guy Geordie Payne a run, Dean, sometime in the second half of the year, because I think that's the spot that is probably vulnerable. If Constanti, I think Constanti's done a good job, and I think he deserves to keep his spot. So I'm not suggesting that he is vulnerable at the moment, but I think if he doesn't contribute enough in the next few weeks, then potentially we'll look to give Payne a run in that spot. I think that would be an interesting swap. I think it'd be a good mix to see how Payne is able to do it, because I think they played quite a similar role. But for Constanti, I think he's done a good job. He's definitely surprised me in a positive way. I've been really happy with what he's delivered. And if I had no expectation on him going into the season, so to play every single game, he's triggered another year, I think, contract extension as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he rounds out the second half of the year.
Well, there's also Zach Bancher that's come in. We'll talk about him soon. So he might be a possibility if they want to add a little bit more zip in that forward line. Steve, I'm going to give you the rookie, Finn O'Sullivan, 12.3 disposals per game, 1.5 tackles, mainly playing half back. But what stands out for me is the good use with his foot of out of the back line. He generally hits targets. He's got a long penetrating kick. Have you been happy with his rookie year so far?
He's been solid. And look, his poise, his evasiveness, his class, we've seen that. And let's not forget, he was drafted as an elite midfielder. And unfortunately, he's not had the chance to play as a midfielder as yet. But we can see how classy this kid is. He'll go from strength to strength. It's his first year of footy. Let's hope he'll finish the year quite strongly. I'm hoping he'll even get a Rising Star nominee by the end of the year. But I've been quite impressed with Finn. And let's not also forget, he missed a lot of footy last year with injuries in his draft year. Pick 2, he was even touted pick 1, I think, mid or started last year. So we've got a gem here. He's a great character from what I hear. He's courageous. He takes a good grab as well. So he's doing quite well at the moment. Once he goes to the next step where he gets 20, 25, 30 touches a game, I mean, look out this competition, because we've got a star on our hands here. But I've been quite impressed with Finn for his first year of footy, playing off half-back, basically. So we might even see him play off the wing maybe, or a bit of midfield time as the year goes on. But I think we've nailed that choice at pick 2, Dean.
Well, apparently played a fair bit of junior footy as a half forward. Are you surprised they haven't actually really tried that at all, push him in at forward 50?
I'm not that surprised, because what you see like with Sheasel and you've seen with other players across the league as well, these youngsters, they tend to start them off at half-back where they see the game, they see the footy, they get a bit of the footy as well. So in that respect, Dean, I'm not quite surprised. Mainly because we see a lot of these young kids start off half-back. And we're even seeing the VFL now where Dersma played half-back last week in the VFL. And it just seems like a default position these days of playing off half-back.
Well, we did it with McKercher. We did it with Sheasel. So it seems to be a rookie thing for us to do, just to put them half-back to find their feet.
Yeah.
Marnie, I'm going to give you a senior player, and I want to get your opinion, because there's probably a bit of conjecture of how this guy's going. It's the captain of the footy club, Jai Simpkin. 22.8 disposals per game this year, 3.8 tackles per game, 0.7 goals per game, 4.9 clearances, 3.3 scoring involvements per game. That's career high. How have you seen his year so far? According to those stats, it's a big improvement from last year. There's a lot of issues last year, obviously with the concussion in the pre-season and going through a breakup in a long-term relationship, but sometimes that can affect people as well. How have you seen him?
I think it's an interesting year. I don't think it's been terrible. It probably hasn't been the impact of late that I would have liked. I think he actually started the year really, really strong. I think the past few weeks has probably faded slightly. The thing I've found with Jai this year is he is, and this is what you see in a leadership and a captaincy perspective, he's often the one I think he's trying to get something going, whether it's at the start of the game, he's really, really involved from the get-go, or when we really need a push, like he's the guy. And so many times this year, he has been able to step up and just have and absorb those big moments and really deliver. The other flip side of it is there are times, especially when he starts a game off, he's trying to get himself involved, and he'll get involved and then he'll turn the ball over. And that just sets a tone that we probably don't want. I don't think he's had a bad year. And I do think that the solo captaincy suits him. I think it actually suits both he and McDonald. I think it was the right call for both of them. And I do think overall Jai's season has been better than it has been worse. But the last few weeks he's gone a little bit missing. I don't know if that's anything to do with the death that he had in his family as well. But I do think one thing I've noticed with Jai is he definitely has been stepping up when we've needed him to and absorbing those big moments. They're just not sustained for me. So he's having a big shot on goal and he's nailing the goal when we need him to in big important moments of the game, like he did in that Essendon game. Probably a really good example of that. However, it's just not sustained over a long period of time. I think he kind of just mixes in and kind of blends in with the group. I think I'd like him to stand out a little bit more for longer than just a moment or a flash in the pan. He's got to have a quarter or a half where he just like takes the bulls by the horns and really leads us, because that's what we need. Like I said earlier, there's only so much a Darling or a Parker can do. We really need the likes of our captain to be stepping up for longer than just a moment. We need a sustained, period of time where he is the guy leading from the front. So overall, to summarize, I think has had not a bad year, better than it is worse. I would just like more of the good stuff from him, which we all want that from our best players. So
definitely. He's probably been, like the team, a bit up and down is probably what you're saying as well. He's certainly had some good moments, but has had some shockers as well, like Good Friday. So, hopefully we can get a bit more consistency from him in the second half of the year. What do you see his role, just on that? Do you see him continuing his role of playing midfield, half forward, just depending on situation?
I think so. I do like him starting in the middle of the ground. I'm a big believer in having a captain there in the center of the ground, firing the troops up, ready to go, and then floating to half forward as needed. He's kicked some really big goals this year, some really important goals, and I do like him rotating through. It does give other players opportunities in either of those roles as well. But I don't think that there's one clear cut over the other for him specifically. I don't think there needs to be either.
No, that's right. Steve, Cameron Zurhaar, I'll give you him 22 goals for the year so far, so that's 2 goals a game. Second in the leading goal kicker, just a couple behind Nick Larkey. Career high in 4.3 marks per game, 5.1 scoring violence per game, and also getting 1 tackle inside 50 per game as well, which is a big improvement from last year. How have you seen his year so far this year? He's spending a lot more time inside that forward 50 as opposed to previous years where he was pushing up the ground a fair bit.
Yeah, I've been quite impressed with Cam Zurhaar this year, Dean, and it just goes to show he's virtually our leading goal kicker behind Nick Larkey. He works in well with Nick Larkey, I believe, and even Jack Darling for that as well. With Cam, we saw one of his better games against Collingwood. It could be quite dangerous, and even the big contested mark he took and went back and slotted as well. So with Cam, yeah, you're right. He spent a lot more time in our 50 this year. He didn't have his kicking boots on at the start of the year, but he's rectified that. And there's always a presence about Cam Zurhaar. His tackle, his pressure, generally a good kick as well. I think his character in the team, he's popular. And I know in previous years we've tried him as a burst player in the midfield as well. And I felt at times this year that was probably worth a go as well, to give him just a quick surge in the midfield to just to give us a bit of spark. But with Cam, look, I'm glad he re-signed a few. I think it was last year before.
Yeah,
he's a player we just couldn't afford to lose at that time. He's been a bargain for us as a rookie list player. Let's not forget. So with Cam, I just feel like if he ends up scoring about 40, 45 goals this year, that's amazing. I mean, I couldn't wish anything more of Cam. But I think with Cam, I think maybe at times a bit more consistency is what we'd like to see. But all in all, he'll finish in our top 10 best and first, no problem. And let's hope he has a strong finish to the year and complements Larky and Jack Darling up forwards where we can win those 3 or 4 games that we're after, Dean.
Yeah, do you think like the big forward line, you've obviously got Finbar, Jack Darling, Nick Larkey, he's probably getting the 4th defender. Do you think that's helped him this year? Those players are having a big impact, whereas previous years he's been the second forward behind Nick Larkey, and he's been far too short for that. And we've been bombing him long 3-on-1 to him, and it hasn't helped him. Whereas this year he's had a lot more help, and it's probably released him a little bit more.
And that's where I credit the recruitment of Jack Darling. I mean, I know Kane Corns has got his say and whatever else. I don't agree with Kane Corns at all. He doesn't see the things that we see of Jack Darling. And he's released pressure off Nick Larkey and Cam Zurhaar as well. And one thing that's not noticed by the media as well is the amount of times Jack Darling's brought the footy to ground as well, which has helped the likes of Cam Zurhaar and even Paul Curtis as well. So answer that question, Dean, I feel yes. And let's not forget, Paul Curtis plays like a small, mid-sized forward as well. So we've got an even spread there where the tall is obviously Larky, then you got Darling, and you got Cam Zurhaar as a third forward, which has helped him as well. So I believe that's helped Cam Zurhaar in all aspects going forward.
Any thoughts on Jack Darling, Marnie?
How long you got?
Yeah, look, I was just looking at the clock then. So, no, if you want to talk about Jack Darling, go for it.
No, I'm a huge Jack Darling fan. I loved him when he played at West Coast. I used to live in Perth and used to watch him firsthand. I think he's sensational, what he's been able to contribute on field. He is always playing a role. My biggest wish, and hopefully we can find it in the second half of the year, is to have somebody else chop Sherry out in the ruck. Jack Darling's most effective when he spends 100% of the time in the forward line. I just don't think it does anybody any favours pulling him out of that forward line. He's been unreal. There were stats that were brought out today about effective one-on-one forwards in the competition, and Jack Darling's in the top 10 to the halfway point of the season in the competition for effective one-on-one forwards, which doesn't surprise me at all. I just think about, he's had a quarter here or a quarter there, just a burst quarter. I'm a big JD fan off field as well. He's such a great guy. He's, so humble and, just awesome. I can't speak highly enough of him. He's obviously not prime Jack Darling. He can look a bit slow at times, and that is because he's reaching the later half of, towards the end of his career, I should say. But he's never going to lose the footy smarts, and he's never going to lose that physicality. So we just need to play to his strengths, and if he's not doing it himself, he's helping someone else in the team do it with his positioning, with his ability, his strength to bring the ball to ground, as Steve mentioned. So, yeah, I'm a huge JD fan. I have been ever since we brought him through the door, and I think that he's done more good for us than harm so far this season.
No, and look, there's no doubt he's lost his athletic. Yeah, go on, Steve. You go ahead.
So in relation to that, Dean, Shaw is a second ruck option. I don't understand why it's not Finbar Maley or even it's escaped me at the moment. He was drafted in mid-season last year. Bryn Teakle. So I feel Jack Darling's best suited just to remain in the forward 50 as a second ruck option. Why wouldn't it be Finbar Maley or even a Bryn Teakle? So that's what I've not understood this year in our so-called game plan.
I don't think he's been awful as a second ruckman. I mean, it's only 5 or 6, generally CBA. So I don't stress too much about it. If he's there, if Cameron Zurhaar's there, I think he's been quite competitive there. There's been a couple of moments where he's lost, conceded a goal against Tex Walker and Tom Lynch, but outside of that, he's been quite competitive. And
I don't think it's so much what he does in the ruck. I think it would be better to keep him forward. So if we do win the ruck contest, then he is that option forward. He played 100% of game time in the forward line in the fourth quarter against Brisbane, and he had four disposals for four scoring shots in the fourth quarter against Brisbane for 2 goals too. He had a couple of contested marks. He ripped Harris Andrews to shreds in a quarter. So I don't think it's any coincidence that he did spend 100% of game time in that fourth quarter against Brisbane in the forward line, and look at the output that we got. It's not that he's getting beaten in the ruck. He's fine to chop Sherry out in the ruck in terms of him doing it. It's actually us a disadvantage to the side when we need to move the ball into the forward 50. I think there's got to be another option in the second half of the year, because I think it's to our detriment not having him in the forward line rather than what he is or isn't doing in the ruck, if that makes sense.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, I probably didn't look at it like that. Go on, Steve.
And for what it's worth, Dean, in his West Coast days, I can never recall Jack Darling playing as a second backup ruck option.
No, I can't remember it either. It was very different. They used to play a couple of rucks back in the day. Yeah. So he wasn't really needed there. Yes, I'm like your probably earlier point there, Steve. I'm surprised they haven't given Finbar Mallee an opportunity to chop out there. According to money, maybe if you get Finbar Mallee in there, you'd probably have Jack Darling put his Wayne Carey cape on and win us a game. So like he's done a couple of times this year. Anyway, while we're talking about Bryn Teakle, I'll go to you, Steve. We'll talk about Bryn Teakle. Now, his future is, I'm not too sure what it is at the moment. I think I spoke with Josh the other day. He asked a question to me, why isn't Bryn Teakle getting a game? Why hasn't he gotten an opportunity so far? I think it's between him and Finbar Mallee. There's not too much difference. In the first few rounds of the VFL and early in the year, they just went Finbar Mallee, and he's been quite good in reserves. Where do you think he's at? Do you think, look, this could be the year because he's out of contract as well?
It's make or break. And look, our list spots are quite tight as well. I read an article, I think it was last week, and we're going to potentially lose our 2 extra rookie list spots, which the AFL gave us a few years ago as part of our package. So we've got a few players out of contracts, and when it comes to list spots, we might end up with just 3 or 4 picks in the draft. So it's going to be quite tough for Bryn to maintain his spot on the list, I believe, especially if they stick with Finbar Mallee, which they will. And I think Jack Darling's contract for another year or 2 as well. And we've got a lot of tools as well. Let's not forget, like both Dawsons, and we've got Matty Whitlock as well. And we're not short of tall talent, but it all depends how Bryn finishes off this season. Look, if they give him a run in the seniors, say this week or next week, if they decide to give Jack Darling a managed rest, or if Finbar loses his place, well, that's the opportunity for Bryn to show his worth and maybe stay on the list for another year or so.
I think his best position is in the ruck that can go forward. But they've been playing Taylor Goad in the ruck and the reserves, and he's been spending a fair bit of time in the forward line. He's a big, mature body, 25 years old. So, I'm not too sure where he's...
And he was quite impressive last year. Let's not forget, Bryn Teakle was quite he just scored most weeks. He was competitive, took a good grab last year. So I was quite impressed with him last year. I felt it was a good pickup, good mid-season pickup for us last year.
Yeah. He's been emergency a few times this year, so he's not far away, but probably have to be one of those tools that come out between Darling and Finbar Mallee.
I know he's had an issue with injury with his foot as well. He's had an issue with his foot as well, I think.
Yeah, he missed a couple of weeks ago
as well. Just hampered him.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Toby Pink, Marnie, he's come into the team in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Has had a couple of really good games. Out of contract at the end of the year. He's moved ahead of Griffin Logue. He's probably looking at another year after this year now.
Yeah, I think he deserves another year based on what we've seen in the first half of the season. His work rate and his determination to actually get himself, he's in the shape of his life. And I think his determination to get to this position and then what he's shown on field, I think is full credit to him. It's not to say that he's not a talented footballer. He's definitely a serviceable footballer, but it just is a classic case and comes to show that you can't really just rely on talent to get you where you need to get to these days anyway. I really liked what I've seen from him. I did really feel for him. He should never have been dropped after that Adelaide game. I know that obviously you automatically walk Griffin Logue back into this side at that point of the season. I'm sure there'd be questions around that decision now, but at that point of the season, you definitely walk Griffin Logue back into the side. But I think Toby Pink hasn't really put a foot wrong. I think he's been awesome. I think another 1-year contract at this point would serve him well, would serve us well. I would expect Griffin Logue to work his way back into this side at some point throughout the season, and for who for, you sort of have to wait and see. But I do think that he's definitely been very serviceable for us in defence. I've really loved what he's brought so far this season. Do I think that this means he's our key defender for the next, 8 to 10 seasons? Probably not. But at this point in time, he's doing everything right. He deserves his spot. You can't really ask for much more from him for now.
Well, if there's been pressure up the field last week against Collingwood, the second half, the game opened up too much, and he was, left isolated, and the ball was moving far too easily. But if there's pressure up the field, he'll do a job, and his intercept work has been quite good. He did that game-saving mark against Tom Lynch, who's no mug, mind you. He played for a free kick, but I probably thought he wasn't going to mark it against him. Full credit to him that he's able
as well.
What's that?
And that chase and tackle.
That's right.
Last quarter against Richmond as well. Desperation.
Yeah, it was a big reason why we probably won that game at the end of the day. Mid-season draft, Steve. What are your thoughts on the players we picked up? I'm not expecting too much, just based on previous history, but based on needs, we're happy to get a small forward and a bit of a lottery ticket on Cooper Trimbath. He's got some athletic ability.
Yeah. Well, with Zach Banch, look, he's a mature age. I think he's about 21, 22, but he's been in the VFL system for some time now. I've seen highlights. I don't know much about him, to be honest, but I've seen highlights. He looks powerful. He can run. He can kick a goal. And he's a small forward that we kind of need. I know we've got a few small forwards. And look, I'm a big rap for Cooper Harvey. I'm hoping Cooper Harvey will get a run sooner rather than later. His VFL form's been quite good. But with Zach Banch, I've read a bit about him as well. So high character apparently and works quite hard. So look, we'll see how he goes in the VFL. They're both on 6-month contracts as well. So we'll see how they play in the VFL for the rest of the year. Might get a run or two, I'm not sure. But with Cooper Trimbath, it's funny. I went to watch the VFL game live against Brisbane Lions about a month ago. And he played quite well, Cooper. And I had to look up his number and go, wow, it's Cooper Trimbath. He took some great grabs and apparently plays back and forward as well. And he marks the ball at the highest point as well. And I got a feeling after that game that North actually hit him away because he went to play for his local club. I think it was Blackburn. And didn't see him since, but he played quite well that day. Could have scored about 5 goals that day because he missed one and he missed a kick on the full as well. But he took some great grabs and it's all fingers crossed with these two. I think we're due to nail a mid-season draft pick. So we've missed out on obviously I think it was Edwards that picked one a few years back as well. And look, Callum Dawson's been okay, but let's just hope at least Zach Banch or Cooper Trimbath can make the grade. I mean, Trimbath, when you get players that are versatile, like him, play both ends and key position players. I mean, Matty Whitlock's the same, can play both back and forward and are both talls. They're the type of players you want to come through their system. So fingers crossed for these two guys.
No, definitely. What about you, Marnie? I mean, every time I mention mid-season draft, everybody seems to say, well, Jacob Edwards. We keep going back to that, but we've got to go with a fresh mind here. Werribee seemed to be a good breeding ground for development the last couple of years. They've really got some players that are coming to the AFL system. Full credit to them. They've dominated in the VFL last 3 years. So, yeah, full credit to them. Cooper Trimbath, a bit of a lottery ticket, but you never know. I watched that game against Brisbane, Steve, as well, and he took some absolute great marks. We were pretty ordinary that day, but he was definitely a standout. Marnie, expecting much from these individuals?
I think with someone like Zach Banch, there was a lot of backlash because another small forward. But truth be told, Jacob Constanti, and if you want to put Paul Curtis in that category as well, they're the only two small forwards who are actually being able to get a lock in this spot and a run in this spot. Hanson Jr. can't hold a spot. Cooper Harvey can't break into the side. Geordie Payne hasn't been able to get into the side. River Stevens. None of these guys are actually playing senior footy. So I have no issue with us going after someone like Zach Banch. I think both of these guys could play senior footy if they play their cards right at some point this year. I'd be interested to see if we give either of them a shot. I think they're both a little bit older. I mean, mature age recruit at 21, 22. That's quite frightening to say, to be honest. But anyway, we move on. So I think with these guys, I don't have an issue with it. I like they're on 6-month contracts because I think we need to make 8 lists. Yeah. So as Graham said, I think we have to get rid of 8 players at the end of the season in terms of who we keep. And then also we lose 2 rookie spots as well. So I think we've kind of got to give them a go or that's it. Like, I feel like it's sort of one or the other with these guys. Cooper Trembath, I think that's exactly the kind of player you take a punt on in the mid-season draft. He could be the player we need, or he could just be another one that, falls back into the system after 6 months. So look, mid-season draft, I think there's potential to take some talent that maybe have developed over the first half of this season. There's also just like a punt or 2 if you want to take it. I don't really put too much emphasis on it personally. I know you can get a gem out of it, but we've picked up so many quality players over the past 4 or 5 seasons in the draft that I think we're in good stead at the moment. I think the crop that we've got at the moment should really be able to push us up the ladder in years to come. So how much these mid-season drafts are going to have an impact or not, I probably don't put as much emphasis on it. I see the opportunity, but I'm not crushed if it doesn't go our way.
Steve, we've got about 100 VFL. Go on, Steve.
That's all right. Just quickly with the mid-season draft, my only concern is we've overlooked another key forward in Archer May. He was highly touted. Collingwood offered him 18-month contracts, so he can slide down to Collingwood as well. And we kind of overlooked Logan McDonald a few years back, but just the Archer May. So I know Essendon pounced on him. I think I'll pick 5. That's just my only concern. Have we overlooked another tall, strong forward in Archer May who played for Subiaco this year? And I think he's Dermot Burden's stepson. So, yeah, that's just my only concern with our 2 picks. Have we made a mistake in overlooking a tall, key, strong forward? But again, time will tell.
The VFL team is very tall, Steve. There's a lot of key position players there now. I think the back line's got about 6 or 7 of them. The forward line's got about 4, counting James Tarrant as well. It's one of the. I think Josh was saying it's going to be the tallest VFL team in the history.
I heard that.
It's going to be hard for these players like that are tall to play in the right spots. You're going to probably see Whitlock play as a small, almost as a defender. I mean, we've got Aiden Core playing on mid-size for smaller players. Yeah. So, anyways, Marnie, what do you want to see for the rest of the season? Do you want to see more wins? Is it as simple as that? Or do you want to see other players get an opportunity or a combination of everything?
Winning games. Like, it really is as simple as that. No more of these honourable losses things. Like, I'm so over it. It's actually quite outrageous, to be honest.
Over it.
I don't like being made to feel guilty that I'm not satisfied that we're not winning these close games, because that's kind of how I've been feeling for a lot of the first half of the season. And I think a lot of the commentary is, this time last year we weren't in it, whatever. Or this, going into the game against Brisbane, you would have been no chance. In game, we were a chance. We drew with them. Like we should have won that game, just as an example. So I think it really is as simple as that. We need to win games. We need tangible proof of improvement. And I think that we do need to finish this season with at least 5.5 wins, if not more. I had 6 wins as a pass mark because last season we supposedly should have won 6 games and we only won 3. So we got to get our skates on here. Obviously, you want to see the likes of a Harry Sheasel come back into form, or the likes of a Colby McKercher to find more form, LDU to be a bit more consistent, Larky to come back into form. He's been missing the past few weeks. But as a whole, it's a team sport and it's about winning games of football. And I don't want us to be satisfied with just getting out there and giving it a crack. I actually want us to get angry and I want us to get hungry and I want us to start winning games.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old Dennis Pagan theory that you're judged on your wins and losses at the end of the day. And I think we've won 17 of our last 118 games. I think we're a bit sick of the losses and honourable losses.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what about you, Steve? What do you want to see for the rest of the season? Do you similar to Marnie there?
I'm with Marnie. I want to win more games. I'm sick of losing. I I want to walk out of the ground with a winning feeling, as we did against Melbourne and Richmond. But in addition to what Marnie has put forward, I want to see more of in the latter half of the year. Look, let's face it, we can't make the finals. Yes, we want to mean more games of footy. I want to see more of Zane Dersma, Will Dawson, Braden George. Fingers crossed. He's been through a lot. Matty Whitlock, Cooper Harvey, Eddie Ford, his new role down back. And Eddie Ford's quite versatile as well. Forward, wing. And it'd be a great sub as well if that was the case. And Josh Goater, fingers crossed. Yes, I know, Dean, he's always 3 or 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
But can you imagine having Ronnie Hardiman on one halfback flank and Josh Goater on the other? These two kids can kick the footy and with precision as well. So, I mean, Josh Goater, he missed all of last year, most of this year. So I'm hoping to see these type of players feature in more of our games as the year goes on. So I'll be springboard for next season.
Well, I think Josh Goater is the type of player we're exactly missing that back line. He can add a lot of pace and skill. He almost reminds me of the Waddell from Hawthorn. He's got that much pace. And So, but look, I can't seem to get himself fit at the moment. He's getting a few soft tissue injuries coming off the Achilles. Marnie, who you got in your top 3 for the BNF so far this year? I assume you got Tristan Xerri right up there. Who else you got?
I think Tristan Xerri, Paul Curtis, and Luke Parker are probably the standouts for me in the first half of the season. I think Paul Curtis obviously unlucky with those 3 weeks out, but I don't think that changes the season he has had and the start of the season that he's had. So, yeah, they'd probably be the 3 that I would say. You could possibly throw Zerha into the mix as well, but they'd be the ones that would probably be the standouts for me.
Yeah, I agree. You're hoping to see like an LDU and a Sheasel come right up there because they're probably not there right now. Their form has been okay. Look, it's been good without being, to that next level because I think Steve mentioned that they've got such a high bar. You're hoping to see them really have a good second half of the year.
Yes, 100%. Sorry, I probably should have mentioned Charlie Convent as well. I think he'll be right.
Yeah, he's been good
the season. He's been awesome. Yes, of course. You always want to see these guys be around the mark. I think Shees in particular has had a particularly quiet year by his standards, but I do think there is a beauty in seeing the emergence of some players who maybe haven't been there in the past, couple of seasons, because that just means that the floor is being elevated as a whole in this team. My biggest concern with the BNF last year is that Shees, LDU and Xerri was so far ahead of the others. It was quite outrageous. So I think if we can have a slightly more level playing field and we can have a lot more guys who are contributing the way we need them to, then it's going to hold us in better stead in the long term and its sustainability. So yeah, I think there's a few names you could probably throw out there for now. And yes, I would like to see our stars shine brighter in the second half of the season. But I think the guys that are having great seasons, they definitely deserve the recognition that they've got so far.
Just on that, did you expect to see this from Tristan Xerri, how good he is 18 months ago? Because this is almost unfathomable where he's come from.
No, I was a big critic of
I remember, Dari, but we all were.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's the beauty of it. Like, we all just want to be proven wrong. Like, no, I'm not going to sit here and stand by what I said about him heading into season 2024. I'm so glad I was wrong. I think Goldie leaving was the best thing that ever happened for him. And, as painful as it was to watch Goldie leave and, as painful as it is to see him running around in Essendon and Guernsey week in, week out, it ends up being the best thing for Xerri. He, the ghost of Goldie's gone and he can kind of just own the ruck role as he needs to. So yeah, it's been awesome.
What about you, Steve? I mean, any different to your top 3 in the BNF so far? And are you hoping to see some players really come up?
Yeah, look, on our podcast in Clarko We Trust, we have a voting system as well.
Yeah,
And Tristan Sherry's leading by streets. They'd be at a record margin at the moment. But we've got Luke Parker coming second. And my third would be a Tom Powell. I think he's had a consistent year as well. And I can see like top 5, top 6 finishes for Sheasel, LDU, Cam Zerha as well, Paul Curtis as well. So I agree with Marnie. I think this year our top 5 or top 10 is going to be more congested. And that's a good sign going forward as well. But yeah, they're my main 3. I would say Tristan Sherry, Luke Parker, and Tom Powell, Dean.
No, fair enough. Yeah, look, I don't think many people will have much different there, to be honest with you. We're certainly hoping a couple, midfielders can really finish off the year quite strongly and get right up there. It'll only be a good thing. And it's not a bad thing right now that LDU and Harry Sheasel aren't there, because if they start to really play to their capabilities a little more, then, yeah, we can certainly win a few more games. Well, I think I've held...
Let's not forget we've George Woodlaw. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well,
let's not forget we've missed George Wardlaw. He's virtually half the season as well. So, and most games he's played, he's polled quite well.
Yeah, look, he certainly has. He definitely makes a difference to the midfield. I think I've held both of you up long enough. Marnie, give your show a plug, Kanga TV. Where can people find you?
Kanga TV, all over YouTube is the main place. And then across socials, it's just Kanga TV show. So YouTube, Instagram, X, Facebook. That's it.
All major social platforms. So make sure to find Marnie there. She's doing some really good work. If you haven't, or you've been living under a rock, then yes, certainly get behind Marnie's work. Steve, in Clarko We Trust, where can people find you there?
Yeah, so we're on all podcast streams, and we've got our own Facebook page as well. And eventually we'll venture into TikTok and all these other social platforms as well. But any questions, please come through our Facebook page or on In Clarko We Trust at outlook.com. And in addition as well, I'm a regular viewer of Kanga TV. Marnie, you're doing a sensational job, and I love your content. Keep it up.
Thank you guys. Thanks so much.
No, you're doing great work, Marnie, and you are as well, Steve. Yeah, I mean, Steve, you've had Nick Larkey, you've got Drew Petrie. I haven't listened to that episode yet, so make sure to listen to that. That'll be a really good one. So, I really appreciate both of you coming on, Marnie. Keep up the great work. I'm sure I'll chat to you at the end of the year, hopefully with a few more wins. We can talk about 7.5, 8.5 wins this year. We're certainly hoping. And, yeah, some players find some good form. But thanks so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And, Steve, really appreciate you coming on tonight as well. Keep up the good work within Clarko We Trust. And I'm sure I'll have you on at the end of the year as well.
Thanks, Dean. Thank you. And thanks, Marnie.
And thank you to all your listeners for tuning in as well. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I should be back tomorrow to preview the game coming up on Sunday. So a big game coming up against West Coast. So we'll see how we go. But thanks so much for listening. Bye for now, and go Roos.